Podcast 173, A Bajan Painting with Light, ISBN 978-976-971-4618, is a philosophized intellectual conversation captured, framed, and ventilated in 11 chapters and verbalized in podcast 173 in publication 305 in ISBN 978-976-971-4618. As a cultural theoretician, according to Wikipedia, I quote, trying to understand culture in all its complex forms and analyzing the social and political context in which culture manifests itself, end quote. It is against this background that I have advanced the concept, a Bajan painting with light, because of my lived experiences. These lived experiences are a depiction of my practical knowledge and decisions, as well as the theoretical and practical understanding that I have gained as a nature photographer, author, media arts specialist, cinematographer, and licensed cultural practitioner who have studied media arts and cultural studies and who's presently pursuing doctoral studies in divinity. These experiences and choices combined qualifies me to employ the same to describe as a type of qualitative study that includes studies on culture and society as well as linguistics and communication. This thinking is corroborated by talkinghealthtech.com. To put things in perspective, I deem it essential that I be aware through observation and inquiry of information regarding the etymology of the words in context navigating this conversation. According to wordpress.com, I quote, words give me a great advantage in figuring out their most effective use. Also, understanding the original meaning of these words, as well as how they were used in both the past and present, certainly increased my comprehension of its nuances and connotation, end quote. Suffice to say that according to BarbadosPocketGuide.com, I quote, the word Bajan is derived from the word Barbadian, end quote. However, in this context, it's employed as a concept, namely a Bajan painting with light, since hibiscus occupied the precincts of the Bajan cultural space. During the contextualizing and decoding process of the aforesaid concept, namely a Bajan painting with light, our theories and explanations somehow influenced and activated my cognition to frame a Bajan painting with light. Linguistically, although a Bajan painting with light is a concept, yet within this environment, the same functions and or behaves somewhat like a metaphorical lens. In this context, is the idea that applying a lens can allow us to see something that was previously invisible to all and sundry. That said, it should be noted that the word lens, according to wikipedia.org, I quote, lens comes from lens, the Latin name for the lintel, a seed or a lintel plant. Because a double convex lens is lentil-shaped, the lintel also gives its name to a geometric figure, and a tool determining the way of light is rendered, and according to FujiFilmX.com, I quote, how much light hits the sensor, the depth of field, the clarity of the focus, and how the out-of-focus field appears, which can have an important impact on the viewer, is subtle and subconscious way, end quote. A Bajan painting with light is also viewed through a philosophical lens, which allows for comparison between this notion, a Bajan painting, and the concept with light, that are otherwise unrelated since, according to medium.com, I quote, they provide analytical tools for use when engaging in this philosophical search because it is a creative way so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings, end quote. The reasoning and or justification for my action and choice is the fact that it helped me to determine that these lenses can help provide explicit detail and also characterize and clarify the nature of a Bajan painting with light. At this juncture, I wish to draw your attention to other tools employed throughout this conversation to tell my story, our lens and photography. The word photography literally means drawing with light. It is by definition a means of writing with light. End quote. As a trained qualified media arts specialist and cinematographer, I understand why Irish Museum or modern art has asserted, I quote, photography is the process of recording an image and a photograph is on light sensitive film, or in the case of digital photography, via a digital electronic or magnetic memory, end quote. The aforesaid thinking is reminiscent of my academic tenure at New Jersey City University, where I was exposed to various lighting plots such as key light, fill light, and backlight, which created a foundation regarding lighting and or illumination. According to wikipedia.org, the same is deemed, I quote, the deliberate use of light to achieve practical or aesthetic effects. Lighting includes the use of both artificial light sources like lamps and light fixtures, as well as natural illumination by capturing daylight, end quote. I am also conscious of the fact that, according to wikipedia.org, lucius derives from Latin word lux, meaning light, brightness, Latin verb lucere, to shine, and is a cognate of the name lucus. Light is extremely vital to this conversation, since the concept, a Bajan painting with light, is a metaphoric lens which captures and frames the hibiscus. Etymologically speaking, according to wikipedia.org, from late Latin hibiscus, from Latin hibiscum, from ancient Greek, probably ultimately Gaulish, end quote. Hibiscus is a flowering plant that belongs to the family Malvaceae, also known as mallow family. Week and .com advocated the hibiscus flowers are large and showy, and the genus grows into herbs, shrubs, or small trees. There are more than 100 species found that are used throughout the world as food and medicine. The usual color cycles of the blossoms are independent of one another, which means that one plant can have white, pale pink, and deep pink flowers at the same time. The flowers give way to seeds enclosed in fluffy puffs, end quote. According to logis.com, I quote, the multicolored blooming hibiscus plants are often slower in growth when compared to their landscape counterparts and a bit more difficult to propagate, end quote. Wikipedia advocates that the original color of hibiscus flowers are large, conspicuous, trumpet-shaped, with 5 or more petals, color from white to pink, red, blue, orange, peach, yellow, or purple, and from 4 to 18 centimeters broad. According to houseplantcentral.com, it is said to represent both love and passion, and it can be given to a romantic interest to show them you love them. It also has small ties to Hinduism, as it represents the Hindu goddess Kali, end quote. Gardening expert Madison Moulton joins the discourse and asserts that when some cogitation is given to planting a hibiscus in your garden, these exotic flowering plants add a touch of the tropics to every garden landscape. With so many species and a range of confusing common names, it can be difficult to decide which hibiscus type is right for you, end quote. GardeningKnownHow.com has asserted that each hibiscus variety has its own genetics that determines what pigments and what range of colors it can produce. However, within that range, temperature, sunlight, pH, and nutrition can all affect the levels of different pigments in a flower and what color they appear. End quote. GardeningKnowHow.com asserts the colors you see in flowers come from the DNA of a plant. Genes in a plant's DNA direct cells to produce pigments of various colors. When a flower is red, for instance, it means that the cells in the petals have produced a pigment that absorbs all colors of light but red. End quote. On reflection, though I have acknowledged the fact that although I am not a trained botanist nor a scientist who study plants, but I am a nature photographer, author, media arts specialist, licensed cultural practitioner, and cultural theoretician who have studied media arts and cultural studies and who is presently pursuing doctoral studies in divinity. I have the knowledge to juxtapose the information research against this concept, a Bajan painting with light, ISBN 978-976-9714618. Now that I have juxtaposed the research information against this concept, a Bajan painting with light, I have created a contrast that shows the difference and similarity between this concept, a Bajan painting with light. And according to Hampshire.edu, I quote, "This fieldwork acts as a systematic inquiry that entails collection of data, documentation of critical information, and analysis and interpretation of that data information in accordance with suitable methodologies set by specific professional fields and academic disciplines." End quote. What is uniquely interesting? I have created a contrast that shows the difference and similarity between hibiscus flower and light, and this was the primary reason for me linking light and the physical world. Lighting in this context is a key factor in creating these successful images of hibiscus flowers. Lighting determines not only brightness and darkness, but also tone, mood, and atmosphere. According to GardeningKnowHow.com, I quote, "A hibiscus plant needs about 6 hours of full sun per day in order to bloom to its fullest potential." End quote. After much cogitation and analyzing the various theories and data collated regarding this topic, it appears that hibiscus, light, and photography have some common features. This conversation certainly helped me understand more and be more accurate, direct interpretation of this philosophical view. I have concluded that it appears that undoubtedly a Bajan painting with light is not only a concept, but an element of art made up of a qualitative studies on culture and society, linguistics and communication, intertwined with abstract theories, metaphors, and philosophies. Podcast 173, A Bajan Painting with Light, ISBN 978-976-9714618, is an intellectual conversation, captured, framed, and ventilated, and 11 chapters and verbalized in podcast 173 in publication 305.